This
Yeah, how
conference
we
will
doing,
now
buddy?
be recorded.
I'm in a good mood today.
Okay. So, managerial accounting, I guess it's easier than cash flow uh, team exams. It's easier than cash flow team exams. I guess I'll say that. But it's different. If you remember in financial accounting, we were given information and we had to determine the journal entry type. But you had the dollar amount. Most times now, as we get into managerial accounting, you will know the journal entry, but you've got to calculate the amounts. So let's look at this managerial accounting cycle that we're working with. And the first thing up here is determine unit product cost and selling price. And then we journalize entries. Well, the journal entries are based, a lot of them are going to be based on the unit product cost and selling price. So if there is a mistake up here, then there's going to be problems with the other journal entries. So what we're doing, we're spending this first week, a whole week, on coming up with unit product cost and selling price. Because the journal entries are going to be problematic if you have problems here. So rather than assuming that you will be able to calculate these, and we have a number of exercises we're doing today. But we're going to make some journal entries, and we'll talk about those journal entries next class period. We're going to post them to the ledger. We have some new accounts we'll talk about next class period. Then we do a trial balance. We do financial statements. There are two new statements. The cost of the goods manufactured. We have to look at the cost of what we manufacture to get our actual unit costs. Then the cost of goods sold, which is not overly so. Then these other income statements, statement of retained earnings, balance sheet, statement of cash flows, things that we just finished in terms of preparing those statements, preparing closing entries, going through the closing entries. In managerial accounting, there are two types of costs, product cost and period cost. Product costs go into costing the product, materials, labor, and overhead. Period costs don't go into the cost of the product, and they're expense in the period incurred. Marketing, selling, administrative, interest expense. So two types of costs. And our main focus in this course are product costs. Period costs, these items are going to be the same as what we did in financial accounting. We always are looking at the per unit product cost. And so when you select your product and you bill it, I need to know the cost of making one. So we always are on a unit cost basis as we begin. There are three costs: raw materials, direct labor, and manufacturing overhead. The raw materials are the actual products that go into making the item. The labor is how much we pay to have the items made. Then every other cost is manufacturing overhead. But as we talked about last time, when you price your item, you got to pick up all of these costs: depreciation, utilities, taxes, insurance, rent. You got to have every cost in there so that you can, because your selling price is going to be a multiple of the cost. And so if you don't have the cost right, if it's too high, then you're going to price the product too high and competitors will undercut you. If the cost is too low, then you're going to not have a selling price high enough to cover all your costs, and you're going to go out of business. And so we looked at a simple problem last time where the product was going to be priced at 3 times the unit manufacturing cost. And we're going to produce 100,000 units. The raw materials consisted of 2 units at $15 each. The direct labor hours is 3 hours at $10 each. And the total manufacturing overhead is estimated to be $66,000. So that's where we are. So I'll turn it off of that and say, I want everybody to take a minute and calculate the unit cost of this product. So take a minute and calculate the unit cost of this product. Everybody have my unit cost calculator? So now as you calculate it, I want you to utilize this format. And you're calculating the estimated unit cost, selling price, and predetermined overhead rate. So I want you to do the raw materials, give me a number here. Then I want you to do the labor, then the overhead, and then come up with the total unit product cost. And in the process, come up with a predetermined overhead rate. So let me just, I'm just going to move this. So ultimately, I want the total unit product cost. So we're working on one item. So you do the raw materials, then you do the labor, then you do the overhead, and then you calculate me a predetermined overhead rate. So this is the format that we'll be using. So let's do this. Let's do the raw materials first. We only have one raw material, right? So
Yes.
little problem we have one raw material, right? Or do we have 2 or 3?
You should have one.
Okay. How many, what's the quantity on that raw material?
2 units at $15 each.
And the unit cost. And so the total raw materials cost is what?
30.
30 since we just have one. So in this box goes 30, and then we move the 30 here as we get into the total cost. So I'm just getting your format down. For the labor, what do we have?
Labor is 3. 3.
$13 in it.
So we can switch around.
Oh,
but
sorry. The labor is at 5.
It's 5.
what's our labor rate?
12.
$10 an hour, right?
Oh, sorry, 10. I was looking at the wrong one.
10.
And productivity rate, it takes how many hours?
3.
3. So, and they could be reversed when we multiply these out. What's our total labor rate going to be?
30.
30.
30. So just getting you used to this format. So the total direct labor cost is 30. Now we need
Got a
to
question.
beg pardon?
That template, this little template thing that you're working on now, can you put it on Blackboard for us,
Sure.
please, sir? Thank you.
Well, you know, that's going to cost you. So if I put it on Blackboard, then you have to put it in Excel. So,
Oh, that's fine. That's the
Okay.
easy part.
okay. Now, let's look at this overhead, and I told you that there's a simple way to do it, but because we are really looking at a number of items, a lot of time we'll be making more one item, especially in the next chapter. And so what we try to do with overhead is to come up with a predetermined rate. So our total overhead in this problem is what? 600,000, correct?
Yes, sir.
And the total quantity to be produced is what?
100,000.
And what's our productivity rate?
5 per hour.
No, it's 3 hours.
Okay.
So it takes us 3 hours to make.
Wait, Professor,
one.
are we talking?
Why is
Okay,
that scratch
I know
through
you're talking
then?
about the first one, but are you taking out? You're just doing the direct labor is 3 hours at $10 an hour, right? Not the 5 per hour one, right?
Correct. I'm doing this
Okay,
one right here. Yeah, this little one here. Just putting it in
That's the first one. Okay.
the first one, putting it in the format that I want you to utilize. So it takes 3 hours to make 1 unit. And so we're going to multiply 3 times 100,000 and get what? 300,000 as the total hours. So our predetermined overhead rate is simply what? Line
2.
1 divided by line 4.
2.
2.
So our predetermined overhead rate is 2. Okay, so when we get ready to calculate the overhead, instead of utilizing this traditional formula, what we look at is productivity which is 3. And then we're going to bring in here the POR. And then we're going to multiply 2 times 3 So the POR we said was what, 2? And we're going to multiply 3 times 2 and get 6. So to get our unit manufacturing overhead cost, we bring in that productivity, the same 3 here. We multiply it by the POR that we calculated 2. And so we get the unit overhead rate at 6. So this is how we'll be doing it. So, so you have the structure to always get them looking like they should. So now we're going to come up here and put, what, 6, right? So what is our total cost?
66.
66. Now we come up here to what's required. The unit cost is 66. The selling price, that selling price multiple is 3. So what's the selling price going to be?
198.
And finally, the POR that we determined was what? That's that number here, which is what? 2. So when you work problem, when you do homework today, when you do your quiz next class period, ultimately I'm looking at these items: the unit cost, the selling price, and the POR. And each of these numbers, not so much the unit cost, but that selling price and POR will be reflected in journal entries. Okay, so we had some unit cost in-class problems. So we had this in-class problem, correct?
Correct.
And it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 scenarios here. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 scenarios. And notice what's required: unit cost, selling price, and POR in each case. Unit cost, selling price, and POR in each case. So everybody has this, correct? Does everybody have the in-class problem?
Yes and no.
Yes, sir.
We can see it.
Yes,
You
sir.
do what? You do have it?
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
Wait,
Mine.
Well, don't worry about it. So let me just see if I can. Okay, so what I'm going to attempt to do is in here. I'm going to now put this in Blackboard. Okay, so you should now have that worksheet. Did it get through?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So I want everybody to work on situation 1. So you got 1 first alternative, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 5th alternative. I want everybody to work on situation 1 and come up with a unit cost, selling price, and POR.
You said unit 1, right, Professor?
Yeah, we're doing number 1.
Okay.
So on number 1, you're coming up with a unit cost, selling price, and POR. All right, so do I have a product unit cost yet?
Getting there.
Okay. Take your time.
I think I got it. I don't know.
So anybody else has it besides Jennifer?
Let's go over it.
Well, put yours in the chat, Ashley.
I said, let's go over it.
Okay. Well, Jennifer, how much do you have for the total product unit cost?
For the
I got
unit,
something.
so I got 50. And I don't know if that's right. Yeah, I got
Anybody
50.
else get 50?
I got 95.
And we got a
No,
55?
I got 95.
Oh, 95. Ooh, that's
95.
95 was my first thing, but then I figured out my
Yes,
problem.
sir.
Anybody else got an amount? Okay, so let's go over it. We have two raw materials, 1 and 2. The first raw material is ink, and the raw material cost is 15. Wait a minute. I'm at the wrong place here. The quantity of raw materials in this first one is 2, and the unit cost is 15. So therefore, the raw materials cost is how much for raw material 1?
30.
30.
30. Then for raw material 2, paper takes what? Only one.
One
Yeah.
at 10.
Okay. So our total raw material cost is what?
40.
40.
40. So let's put a 40 right here for the raw materials. Okay, let's go to the labor. See if it'll insert a column to the right.
It's cold blooded.
Okay, so our direct labor rate was what?
50. $50 per hour.
Productivity rate is what?
10 books.
10
per hour.
per hour. So what are we gonna do here if it's 10 per hour?
Divide it.
All right. Divide
50 into 10. You
50
get 5.
divided by 10
5 books.
will be 5. That is, you expect the workers to make 10 books an hour, and you're paying them $50 an hour, so they got to make 10 books. The labor's costing you $5 per book.
Per book. Okay. That's really...
$5 per book. Next, we have to do our overhead.
Okay, overhead. Productivity is...
So the total overhead is what?
50,000.
50,000.
50,000.
The quantity to be produced is how many?
10,000.
So how many hours? But the productivity rate is what? 10 per hour, right? 10.
Yes.
They make 10 per hour. So how many hours do the workers have to work?
1,000.
You got to work 1,000 hours. Because they're supposed to be able to make 10 per hour. So we just divide 10 into 10,000, we get 1,000. And so our predetermined overhead rate is going to be what? 50,000 divided by 1,000 or what?
50.
So the POR, let's see, backspace. It's 50. So now in terms of our overall answer,
Oh, I gave you the POR answer. I'm sorry. I wrote it. I looked at the wrong one.
POR is 50.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
let's see if we can get this unit manufacturing overhead rate. The productivity is what? They make 10 per hour.
10. Okay. PR is 50.
POR is 50. So what's our unit overhead rate going to be?
This is confusing.
Since we can make more than one in an hour, we're going to divide the productivity rate into 50. And so the unit overhead rate is going to be 5.
5. Okay.
You said that we're dividing because we're making more than 1 unit per hour?
Yep.
Okay.
So now we have a unit overhead cost of 5. So what's our total cost?
50.
50. 50.
And what's our
Times-
selling price?
Times 3 is not 3 times 5, 50.
Wait,
150.
I got that right.
150.
Is that right?
That's what I got.
The what?
That looks right.
Well, we'll give you another chance, Jennifer and Taiwo. Go ahead and do number 2.
So is it not right or is it right?
Oh,
I was good until I understood until the 150. Where did we get the 150 from?
You multiply that by
Yes, me
3.
too.
So
The
that
where's the
price,
Multiple
it
is
says it
3.
right
So
So
remember,
we multiply the POR by the
with the
selling price.
selling price. Nobody, when you make something, gives you a selling price. And our selling price is 3 times the unit cost.
Okay, I understand from where it said, okay, I get you.
So let's see if we can work another one.
Do we do number 2 on the same chart or do we open a new one?
It's up to you. We got enough room, probably, except for the raw materials.
Yeah, that's what I was looking at.
Yeah. So for direct labor, insert a column, right?
Yeah, if you right click, you can insert columns.
So we got enough of the scenarios that we're going to work. But when you begin to work with the direct materials, I think with that one, you've got to just copy and put another one in. Quite honestly, they may be all kind of similar. So in this, and even though they kind of stay the same, in general, that won't be the case. And so as you do it, you need a separate template for each raw materials. It won't matter in this one staying the same, but in others that won't be the case. Y'all finish? So what is our total unit cost in situation 2? I will take a few more minutes. 2 more minutes.
Is it 60?
Yes, I got 60.
Here's 60. Go in once, go in twice. Let's go with 60. Let's see if we'll get there. Now, the raw materials cost in this problem, they're staying the same. So the raw materials are going to be what? 40. When we go to the labor rate now is what?
25.
25. And we can make
25 books per hour.
it's $25 an hour. We're making what?
5 books per
5
hour.
per hour. So we're going to do what? Divide 5 into 25 and we get what?
5.
5 again. So we can put 5 in here for the labor cost. That is the per item labor cost is 5 because the workers are making 5 books an hour and you're paying them $25 in total. So you're paying them at the rate of 5 books per hour. Now let's see if we can get this overhead down, get a POR. Let me just cut this. So the total overhead in this situation is how much? 150,000, correct?
Yes.
Yes.
Quantity to be produced?
10,000.
10,000.
So how many hours is it gonna take?
2,000.
2,000.
Productivity rate is 5.
5. So it's gonna take 2,000 hours. So what's our predetermined overhead rate gonna be?
75.
I'll go with 75. So when we go back up here to do the unit manufacturing cost, so our productivity rate here is what?
5.
And our POR was what?
75.
So our unit overhead rate, whenever we can make more than 1 an hour, we dividing into that POR. We're gonna have what? What's 5 into 75?
15.
So the overhead cost is 15. So 60 becomes the magical number that's correct. So this is 60. And our selling price multiple here is what? 2. So our selling price is 120. So you simply just go here and see what the multiple is, and you multiply it out to get your selling price. And what was our POR?
75.
Okay, so let's go and let's work number 4. So the next one I want you to do is number 4. So what's my unit cost in situation 4?
85.
I got 100.
I got 100.
85 and I got 100. Anybody else?
I got 85.
So I'm assuming it's 85 or 100. So the raw materials, same thing, correct?
Yes.
So they're 40. Now, when we work the labor this time, it's 2 hours per book. So the direct labor rate is $10,
Mm.
but it takes 2 hours. So if you work 2 hours at $10 an hour, how much money you want? If you work 2 hours at $10 an hour, how much money do you want?
$20.
Thank you. So we have $20 in here for the labor. Now let's see if we can do a calculation for the overhead. Yes, we're on situation 4. Okay, so what's our total overhead?
400,000.
400,000? And the total quantity still 10,000, right?
Yes.
So how many hours is it gonna, well, the productivity rate is 2 hours. So how many hours will the workers work?
20,000.
You're gonna work 20,000.
Okay.
So what's the predetermined overhead rate gonna be?
20.
40.
I got 20.
All right, my LR is 20.
That was wrong.
I looked the wrong number.
It was 40 divided by 2.
20. Oh, yeah, 20.
20, sorry.
So for our unit manufacturing overhead costs,
It's 20.
well,
Okay.
the POR is what, 20, correct?
Mhm.
Yes.
And what's our productivity rate?
40. Wait,
What's our
no.
productivity rate?
It's
2.
2.
So whenever that productivity rate is higher than 1 hour, that is, we got to work more than an hour to make an item, we multiply. So we're gonna multiply 2 times 20, and we get 40.
Mm-hmm.
So either you multiplying or you divide. If you are dividing up here, you're dividing down here. If you multiplying up here, you multiplying down here. So we put a 40 in. So what's our magical number?
100.
100.
100.
Times
So in 4, unit cost is 100.
Times
What's
3 is
our selling
300.
price multiple?
300. Oh, wait.
2, right?
It's taking it out. What's wrong with it?
So
Yes,
probably
it's two.
2. Wait a minute.
200.
200 goes here. And our POR was how much?
20.
20.
20. 20.
Okay, so you've got to be able to make these calculations correctly, because as you work your problems, journal entries are going to be based on these numbers. So if you don't make the correct calculations, a number of your journal entries are going to be incorrect.
So Professor, when it's in a, when we're at the overhead, and if it's per hour, we multiply instead of per unit when we divide. I mean, that's what threw me off. I kind of caught myself.
If you have to make more than 1 unit in an hour, if the workers can make more than 1 unit in an hour, you divide. If it takes the worker more than 1 hour to make the item, that is, it's taking 2 or 3 hours to make it, you multiply. So that's what you got to be able to learn. Think you all will have that learned by Thursday?
In my honest opinion, me personally, I wasn't in class on last Thursday. Remember, I was only here long enough to do attendance. And my group members have been trying to assist me, and don't get me wrong, they are perfect at what they do. However, I am still a little confused. So I don't know if I will have this down packed by Thursday, especially seeing that I just got number 4 wrong, because I didn't know that I was supposed to multiply instead of divide. So yeah, I don't know if Dominique will have it down by Thursday for a quiz, but yeah, I can't speak for everyone else. For me personally, I won't be
Taiwo,
ready
you
by
have it down, right, Taiwo? And Jennifer, you have it down, right?
Yes. Group members
Okay.
and it too.
All right, this is what we're going to do. This is what we're going to do. What were those homework problems you all were supposed to do?
The 10-6.
Exercise. Yeah, 10-6.
Was it 10-5 and 6?
Yeah, it was so.
You
We all got
posted
like
both, but you only told us to do 10 days.
You
So-
said group 1
This
through 4
so
and 10.
make sure you all are ready on each team to do 5 and 6, 10-5 and 10-6.
Jesus.
So
you want us to
it's,
do all of that?
yeah, that way y'all be ready by Thursday.
Are we submitting that?
Are you submitting it?
Okay, so what
Jeez.
what I'm trying to explain is that I've been trying to learn this since last Thursday when I'm, and I still haven't got it to this time today.
So
So
the
you
way
just
it's
telling me
work,
to go do.
that is 8 situations, I guess, and you got 4 and 5 person on a team. So you assign 1 person to 2. Then that person explains their answer to the rest of the team and you check it. Well, some teams have fewer people, so it's a little more, but you go and you work it. So you get the practice on it so you can knock it out. It is not that hard, but it's just a little different way of looking at things in its unit cost. So we spent out 2 days on it, and we got last class period and this lecture. You got the examples. We got these 2 examples work. You'll practice on those 2 and you'll be ready on Thursday, because you're only going to have since you all are crying, I give you the first 30 minutes of class. That's all. Because it's just a quiz. Then we got to go learn how to make some managerial accounting journal entries. So
Well,
it's a
go
little
ahead.
different. We'll be okay.